Institute. That's a fairly recent development. It's only been a few years. It's no longer a boarding school. Boys come for the day, take their classes, learn their trade, and go home. But since 1880, when the school was first established, the Alpha Boys School was always a boarding school. It was a place where boys who were sent there by the state, by the country, they were wards of the state. They came there to learn a trade, get their education, but they also stayed there. They stayed in dormitories, they ate there, they lived together as a family. And one of the trades that they learned, in addition to brick making, gardening, tailoring, wood shop, today printmaking, audio engineering, but the one trade for which they are most well known is their band. The Alpha Boys School Band has produced more musicians that have shaped the course of music history overall than I would argue any other school in the world. It really was an incubator and the cradle of Jamaican music. This became the subject of a book that I was proud to co-author with Adam Reeves, Alpha Boys School, Cradle of Jamaican Music. This book contains biographies of dozens of the musicians who came from Alpha Boys School. It also has a large chapter at the beginning on the school itself, how it came to be founded by the Sisters of Mercy, how the band grew under the tutelage of its band leaders, band masters, who wanted to shape the boys for a career in the military bands, and also a significant chapter on Sister Mary Ignatius Davies. She was a nun who, at the age of 19, came to Alpha Boys School, became a mother to these boys who were hers, and she helped to find their niche in the band, in another trade like woodworking, and helped to guide their moral direction so that they could have a chance in life. She was in this position, became headmaster of the school, until she died in 2003. Her life and her commitment is a significant reason why we have Jamaican music as we know it today. Without Sister Mary Ignatius Davies, we might not even recognize Jamaican music. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to share with you a little bit more about Alpha Boys School. I'd like to highlight a few of the musicians who came from Alpha Boys School. And I hope that after today's talk, you will continue the dialogue with your friends, introduce them to the musicians of Alpha Boys School, and appreciate their music with more depth than ever before. Before cars swarmed the streets of Kingston, and even before electric trolleys rang their bells and flew through the city on crisscrossing cables, the Alpha Boys School became a fixture in Kingston along South Camp Road. Alpha Boys School was founded by Justina Ripple, better known as Jessie Ripple, in 1880, and when she and her two devout Catholic friends, Josephine Jimenez and Louisa Dugiel, combined their money and bought land to establish an orphanage. They chose 43 acres in South Central Kingston and built an orphanage for girls. A single building, a small cottage. In 1883, Alpha Cottage School, as it was then named, first welcomed boys, and a separate boys' school was formed. Over the years, nuns from all over the world came to serve at Alpha. and help guide the students, which numbered up to 700 at times, teaching classes and instructing students in trades they could use to gain employment after they left school. Trades such as gardening, printmaking, bookbinding, pottery, plumbing, shoemaking, tailoring, woodworking, and of course, music. It was the trade of music that put Alpha Boys School on the map, which in turn put Jamaica on the map. The band program at Alpha Boys School had long been established back in 1892 as a drum and fife corps, and since the program had a connection with military bands, music taught during these times was solely classical. But under the leadership of Sister Mary Ignatius Davies, the boys who began, she was a nun who served at Alpha in 1939 until her death at 2003. The band program grew since she saw opportunities in music for her boys. She saw that music of all forms, classical, Latin, jazz, American rhythm and blues, was a meal ticket for her boys. As a result, these boys gained a solid education, an austere foundation that led to employment in Jamaica's finest clubs, where the barristers, doctors, tourists, and their wives would come to swing and dine. The boys who entered Alpha Boys School barefoot and without a mother or father to care for them now had a horn, a suit, and a paycheck. Music saved their lives. And so, when the music moved from the lucrative clubs into the studios, Alpha Boys School brought their knowledge of jazz and the clubs with them, transforming the music into something uniquely their own. As musicians for the island's newly forming recording studios, Alpha Boys adapted the sound into something hipper that would attract downtown crowds when their vinyl played at sound system dances in the yards. It was a blend of jazz, American rhythm and blues, and mento. It was ska. The sound swept the tiny island, and people clamored to purchase 45s from shops in Kingston to spin on turntables of their own. They stormed the dance halls to hear the lively music, to hear the syncopated rhythms and trombone and trumpet and saxophone, to take away their post-colonial worries. Vocalists like Bob Marley and Peter Tosh and Jimmy Cliff were suddenly stars, crooning through the speakers at every dance, on every radio, and soon throughout the world. And behind them, producing the sound that not only formed the foundation of their song, but also the foundation of their career, were the Alpha Boys, the originators of the sound that would slowly transform just a few years later into rocksteady, and a few years after that into reggae. Without the Alpha Boys, there would be no recording industry as we know it, no reggae as we know it, no Bob Marley, no Jamaican music as we know it and love it all over the world today. The Alpha Boys began in the jazz era. Many of the musicians, such as Wilton Ganner, Bobby Ganner, Dizzy Reese, Harold McNair, Dr. Leslie Thompson, and many others went to England and Germany in search of more work. Others stayed, like Johnny Dizzy Moore, like Tommy McCook, like Don Drummond, like Eddie Tan Tan Thornton, and Lenny Hibbert. They stayed to find their own meal ticket in the clubs and subsequent recording studios. Without the jazz era, the ska era, rocksteady, reggae, and even, as in the case of Johnny Osborne, and especially Yellowman, the dancehall era, these were the musicians that put Jamaican music on the map. I hope you've enjoyed hearing a little bit about the boys of Alpha Boys School and a little bit of the history. I would encourage you to take any one of these musicians that I highlighted here today. Don Drummond, for example, extraordinary trombonist, a master at his instrument. Tommy McCook, saxophonist. Rico Rodriguez, a trombonist who followed in the wake of Don Drummond, learned from him, was his protege in many ways. Wilton Gannair and Bobby Gannair, Dizzy Reese, Harold McNair. These are the giants of the jazz era. Joe Harriott. They left to go to England before ska was shaped. But put on some Dizzy Reese and listen, and you can hear the beginnings of that Jamaican sound. Joe Harriott was one of the very first to experiment with bringing in other types of sound. And he was one of the foremost authorities on the bebop sound. We never really look at him because he came before the music that most of us love, like ska and rocksteady and reggae. But these were the Alpha Boys that those who created the reggae and the rocksteady and the ska first learned from. Harold McNair, a flautist. Take a look at one of his songs. Go onto YouTube, Google him, and check him out. Tan Thornton, a trumpeter who performed and recorded with the Beatles. Got to Get You Into My Life, that little trumpet riff, that's Tan Thornton, an Alpha Boy. Explore the musicians of Alpha Boys School. Enjoy what you hear. Pay your respects by continuing their tradition. Carry on that burning torch by making music of your own. Hopefully you will hear something from the Alpha Boys who inspire you. Thank you very much.